Yeah, One Piece. So, last month I did a video on a Naruto MMORPG, and that turned out to be pretty much as terrible as you would have expected. But this left me thinking, you know what, are there other MMORPGs that rip off popular anime series? And yeah, yes, there are. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Whoops, I smacked, never mind. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to One Piece Online. And as you can tell, we're off to a great, very professional start to the video. This is an MMORPG that takes us on a grand adventure with an incredible cast of characters, next generation graphics, and combat that is even faster, even more fluid than what you see in the anime. You know what else would be incredible though? If every single one of you click that subscribe button, especially if you're interested in staying up to date with MMO news like this every day, general MMO discussions, MMO giveaways, and if you feel I deserve it, drop a like and a comment on the video. It's a huge help towards the YouTube algorithm. Now welcome back to another episode of What on Earth Did STIX Download and Play This Time, where we sift through every MMORPG available right now in an attempt to find the best MMORPG in 2021. Today, we're taking a look at, well, One Piece Online. If you watch the anime, you might enjoy this. If not, then I'm kind of sorry for what you're about to experience, you know, if you haven't already closed out of the video. Now, I'm at a loss as to where to even begin with this. I want to tackle this in as unbiased a way as I possibly can, but at the same time, this was even worse than Naruto Online, and Naruto Online was a questionably bad experience. However, in Naruto Online, at the very least, you were given a certain level of freedom to explore the varied areas you were in at each point within the story. You started off in Konoha, and then you got to explore the town. You got to see some of the cast from the anime and the manga all interacting with one another, and that was kind of cool. That, unfortunately, was not the case with this. This world was far more limiting. You had less control over your character. You moved horizontally in little towns filled with a few different NPCs, characters from the anime. You'd take a quest from them, and then you'd have to go to some type of like battle map, which hosted a set number of different enemy encounters. These were admittedly very simple, and your characters, one of which you got to choose at the beginning of the game, and the rest being comprised of characters from the series, would all attack enemies automatically. You could opt to use their abilities manually if you wanted to, but with the upgrades I got by simply playing, there wasn't really a need for literally any interaction from me whatsoever. As noted, the combat was semi-auto. It featured a kind of turn-based combat system, I guess. It's the closest comparison I can make. You and the enemy team would essentially take turns hitting one another until one side was defeated. You had the ability to customize your character by upgrading and equipping new abilities, enhancing their gear, their levels, their stats. These all require items to do, by the way, but the items in question, at least at low levels, were thrown at me in bulk. I'm going to assume that won't be the case later on in the game though, as these upgrades, these enhancements, are no doubt going to be an integral part of not only the progression, but also remaining competitive in any sense. And that is likely where the pay-to-win aspect of the game comes into play, because I heard from quite a few people while I was streaming this that this is equally as bad, if not even worse, than Naruto Online. This game felt like a bad mobile game, but at the very least, you know, mobile games can look good for the most part, and sometimes they even play good. Punishing Grey Raven, Guardian Tales, Genshin Impact are all proof of that. But One Piece Online, man, graphically, this is probably one of the worst, blandest looking MMOs that I have ever seen, from the flat world to the lack of any kind of animation. Sure, every character you would recruit would have unique abilities, but it just felt so underwhelming. There was no impact behind any of the attacks. There was no real fluidity in terms of movement overall, and the world, it consisted of a small screen with a few houses and NPCs. I get it, at the end of the day, this is a browser MMORPG. you really can't expect too much from a game as limited as a browser MMO, but at the same time, at least with Naruto Online, which is one of the only other browser games that I have played in all honesty, it provided a world to explore. It gave some sense of control over what was going on. You didn't feel like you were navigating like a still image, a screenshot. As for what you do in One Piece Online, oh well, you take a quest from an NPC that tells you to eliminate a guy, and that's it. Every quest over a several hour period consisted of eliminate this one guy, and to reach said guy, you'd be required to engage several other guys. There was no challenge present, as you would continue to get additional characters and enough items that you were significantly overpowered for the content at hand. Now, speaking of characters, while I did get a few of them via the story, I am going to go out on a limb here and assume, much like mobile games, that there is a gacha system present that is going to prevent you from obtaining the best characters without investing quite a bit of IRL cash. How else would the developers behind the game justify keeping it, along with its literal hundreds of servers online? And furthermore, how would it maintain any kind of semblance of a population? Now, this game has a separate client, so you're not forced to play it via your web browser. But if you're a fan of One Piece, you'll still likely hate this. The characters are just so different to their anime and manga counterparts. The gameplay is worse than what you'd find in a mobile game. Graphics are absolutely terrible. It feels like you're navigating a still image. The world is empty. It's tiny, pretty much non-existent. The world has a few different screens with some NPCs scattered around on a horizontal line. The story is horrible, and the characters' involvement in the story is completely out of place. There's a gacha mechanic in place, meaning that players with large sums of money will likely have a much easier time recruiting the better quality characters. The game, with the exception of running to the NPCs, is pretty much autoplay. And I loathe autoplay in my games, PC games specifically. Now, I could realistically continue to list off additional issues I had with the game, but suffice it to say, at the end of the day, this game is just unbelievably, unquestionably, undeniably bad, terrible, horrible. I don't typically hate MMOs that I play, but I can tell you that after playing this for approximately 2 hours, I can legitimately say that you could not pay me to play this game more. If the devs reached out to me and offered me money to play this, I would have to turn them down. Yeah, it is truly that bad. I cannot begin to think of any way of justifying how bad this truly is, from how bad it looks to how bad it plays, to the lack of freedom to explore, to the lack of control over the combat, the atrocious still images that comprise the background and the characters with personalities that just feel so out of place. At least with Naruto Online, which I know I keep comparing this to, the game felt kinda like an MMO, even if only a little. And even more than that, it was retelling the events of the anime with cutscenes that were taken directly from the anime series itself. This does not, and this feels like a cheap knockoff with One Piece in its name to bank on fans that are too gullible to know what this really is.
Someday soon, I'm gonna make it.